All old houses have character, have personality. My first encounter was sudden temperature changes, as though someone was opening a freezer door and it would become extremely cold, even in summer. There would be a feeling of, I call it dread, but it was a feeling of leave now.
And we're talking quite loud and we were told to shh.
And I was pressed into the bed and I just lay there frozen, and there was like a shadow down on this back corner. You know, Serafina died in this room, right here where I'm sitting. Otto was shot out on those western stairs. Emil was sitting on the kitchen stairs, massive heart attack, died in the kitchen. Human life, any life, there's an energy. Where does that energy go?
And you have to ask yourself, does a ghost move with the building it was in, or particular belongings that are associated with it, or does it belong to a particular place in geography?
This is one building in the whole village which I feel uncomfortable in at night.
Pittman. I am the great-grandson of Christian and Serafina Manteuffel, who came to Australia in 1886. I'm the current owner of the property Hopewell, and I donated the residence to the Gatton Historical Society. The Manteuffels came to Australia, Christian and Serafina came to Australia in 1886 aboard the ship the Duke of Edinburgh. They came with Serafina's son, Paul Shivey, and Christian's children from his first marriage. They settled at Woodlands on a 160-acre original selection, which still remains in the family. They went on to buy various properties in the area and settled their children on these properties.
G'day, my name is Rick Maskey. I'm the president of the Gatton District Historical Society. I have been for the last 12 months. Dad moved up here from Katoomba in 1992 and he joined the society straight up. We moved up here in 96 and he dragged someone here to join, and I've basically been involved ever since.
All old houses have character, have personality. When I first bought Hopewell and started doing some renovations, various strange things had happened, and there were family stories of seeing shadows along the hallway. But when I was here, it could be any time of the day or night. My first encounter was sudden temperature changes, as though someone was opening a freezer door and it would become extremely cold, even in summer, very quickly. And there would be a feeling of, I call it dread, but it was a feeling of leave now. So I would leave, I would literally down tools and leave, and come back 2.5 hours later and everything would be okay. And then it went on with things like my cat. My cat would just be sitting there with me and then all of a sudden start to stare and just hollow, nothing. There was music played occasionally, you'd hear that, soft, gentle music. Riding past the house once, I quickly glanced up on the veranda. There seemed to be an entire group of people, 20 people, looking at me. They were there, they were gone. But I did recognise some of the faces in the crowd as being my ancestors. It went on. I was living here. You would see the occasional shadow down the hallway. Generally, an older woman's figure, dressed in a grey dress. And then I had an experience where I was actually sleeping in this room one night. My bed was right here, and I was pressed into the bed, and I just lay there frozen for probably 10 minutes before everything sort of eased off and I was able to draw breath again. I have seen YouTube clips that people have posted of the ghost nights here, and there's like a shadow down on this back corner of the veranda. I've never seen anything like that. Yeah, that was odd. I've heard other people talk about music and hearing soft music, and since the residence was moved here to the Historical Society, and they've had their paranormal nights, people have spoken about a little boy around the house, and there was also remarks that was in association with me. I have no idea about that at all.
We have had one. We hold a paranormal investigation about every 6 weeks, and me and my wife were in here locking up one night about 11 o'clock at night, and we were talking quite loud, and we were told to shh from inside this room. Okay, fine, we started going down the hall there, and we got another shh as we walked out the door. Yeah. This is one building in the whole village which I feel uncomfortable in at night. Southeast Paranormal is an investigating group. They come here about every 6 weeks and hold an investigation night. It's not a tour as such. They have different staff members scattered around the village, and you move around as you see fit and see what happens. This room here, they generally have a seance in here, or crystal reading. They have people over in the slab hut, in the phone building, the Soldier Memorial Hall, and at the jail. Basically, the public move around as they see fit.
my name's Steve. I'm actually the owner of East Coast Paranormal. We have a team of professional investigators who do public events, so we can educate the public on what we do and what we see and how we do it, and they can get their own results and their own feedback from what we do. So we're here to educate people who are interested in this field. All up, I've been investigating here about 5 to 6 years myself. My team and I, we've been here about 2.5 years, 3 years now. And over that time we've had a lot of different connections. In general, around the whole village here, we've had quite a few things happen. Some definitely with guests running off screaming from what they've seen. Hopewell itself, where we're sat right now, we have some very strange stuff happening in here, depending on the night and depending whether obviously they want to talk to us, whether they want to talk to the guests. We've had cabinet doors been opened in front of guests, we've had things move, we've had shadows seen. We have a little girl out on the patio who will actually play with you, if you can see, if you've got the ability to see. She will actually play with you and play peekaboo through the doors and run across the back. There's a cat that is around here, a spirit cat, which I can definitively tell you is alive, because at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's meowing and there's nothing there, it's definitely Mr. Spirit Cat. And also the railway station now has become very interesting. Now we know the gentleman's name who used to run the rail house, and he has a lot to say at times.
My name is Jill Dipplesman. I'm a local of Gatton. We have live just outside of the town, but I've been a member of the Historical Society since the early 80s, and we've seen a lot of things come and go here. Most of the buildings that are here now were here when I first came, except for Hopewell. Hopewell came and sat there for quite a while. It was a house that was out in Woodlands. It used to have, it was the local exchange as well, way back. We got a grant to put in for a grant to start doing it up, and we've got the front part of the house done up, and the rooms have been set up and that sort of thing, and but it's supposed to be haunted. But I have never experienced anything. I believe the paranormal people might have that use the place.
Do I think Hopewell's haunted? I'm going to go with a definite yes on that one. Not just from what we've seen, but from what guests have seen, and we've had a few people come in here trying to challenge what's been said, and they've also picked up on some very unusual things coming up on film, but mainly we're getting a lot on recordings when we do EVPs, which is the electronic voice phenomena, and we're getting some really weird things coming through. We've had people speaking in what we believe is German on some of our devices, and the people who lived here were from Europe as well, so we can tie things in that way.
You've also got to remember that a number of people have died in this house, so whether if you believe it or not, or there's an energy, Serafina died in this room, right here where I'm sitting. Otto was shot out on those western stairs and died on the train to Ipswich, because there wasn't a hospital in Gatton in those days. Emil was sitting on the kitchen stairs massive heart attack, died in the kitchen. So there's been a lot going on. There's a lot of people who've lived here. There's a lot of energy.
Where is this? Is that you over there? Okay.
I don't like the word haunted. It has sinister connotations. If you ask me if the house has energy, yes. If you ask me if the house itself has a soul, I would say yes. I believe that old residences such as this deserve respect. They deserve to be maintained. They shouldn't be allowed to become dilapidated and disappear. So yes, there is an energy. An interesting thing though, I've spent, because I'm into history, and you know, I've been to say Stonehenge for example, I felt nothing. It was just cold. The Tower of London, I felt nothing. Maybe these buildings are over restored. I don't know. Maybe there's too many tourists, too much energy. I don't know. But I do know what I experienced here, how I felt, and you know, as a 30-year-old man in the middle of the afternoon in summer, I would pack up and leave immediately.
Do I think they're dangerous? There are obviously a variety of spirits no matter where you are. Now, my team, we actually work on a very high energy basis. Like, we're always light, airy, very, very polite to the spirits, very, very responsive to the spirits. So we keep our energy very, very high. Now, a positive input always brings out a positive output. So 9 times out of 10 when we're talking to spirits, we have no problems at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had spirits tell guests to go away in a language that probably shouldn't be repeated on film, but it happens. But if a spirit was rude and obnoxious like that when they died, that's how they're going to come through as well now. If they were jokers when they died, very often we get them come through joking around and teasing guests, teasing team members. We have a gentleman that was locked up in the jailhouse here, and we have his background story as well. He's well known that if there are ladies in the jail, he will pinch them on the bottom and touch some places he probably shouldn't. But it has been highly documented here without saying anything about it.
Okay, there have been reports of various encounters around the village. There is reportedly an entity in the jail of an ex-prisoner who's still hanging around there for some reason. We also have the Gatton railway station, which when you go down there late at night, it's been reported you can hear someone walking on the platform and a train pulling up. Yeah, so there are some mysteries around. There's also reports with the paranormal tour group that they have other spirits from around the area coming in to see them.
In the beginning, I felt like I needed to leave. I needed to leave immediately. And the funny thing is, years and years later, I ended up at a fortune teller of all things in the main street here in Gatton. And it was just this old lady who read playing cards while you had a cup of coffee. And she said, "You've bought an old house." I said, "Well, yes." And she said, "There's spirits in that house and you know they're there." I go, "Yeah, okay, I can feel them." And she said, "Don't worry, they won't hurt you. Just tell them to go away and I'll leave you alone." Interesting, that's from a complete stranger who knew nothing about my association with Hopewell.
Hi, I'm Barry Hoffman. Been a member here for the last 15 years probably. Round about that. I've done treasurer for 10 years or so. I've done a president for 4 years, 5 years. So I've been around here long enough to have any feelings for any of the buildings, if there is any. I haven't felt anything yet, so I don't think there's too many ghosty stories around here. Some people think there is. That's up to them, that's their business. I certainly haven't felt anything around here anyway. I believe there is a bigger being. Some things have happened to me, but I've always been able to pull myself out of it. But I believe there's somebody who was looking after me a couple of times, but definitely nothing around here in Hopewell or anywhere else that I've been.
I know my experiences in this house, ghosts in general. I have a science background, so I'm skeptical, but human life, any life, there's an energy. Where does that energy go when you die? I don't believe it just dissipates. People have pets that die and they feel the energy. I have friends who don't recognise formal religion, but focus very much on the power of the earth and the power of nature and the power of trees. Maybe it's all intertwined, I don't know. If I did know, I'd be rich.
Do I believe in it? Yes, I do, definitely. I have photographic evidence, I have video evidence, I have EVP evidence that we could not discredit. Working through, as professional investigators, we very much sit on the fence. If we were over the fence one way, every little noise or every little bump, oh, ghost, this was that was this. We don't do that. Every picture that we take, every video, every EVP, we do everything we can to prove that it's not what it is. When we can't do that, then you have evidence, and those are the pieces of evidence that we keep. I have recordings of little girls singing in a room where there's absolutely nobody around. There is no way you could have got music into that room. We've got EVPs of people talking in rooms that, like, we've put the recorders down and walked out of, come back 15 minutes later and nobody else has been in the room. There's nothing around the room where these sounds could have been picked up.
I mean, that's a sort of spiritual side of that, but Hopewell as a building itself, you've got to get it in the context that these people came to Australia in 1886. Major Lockyer only explored the Lockyer Valley in 1825. Early populations, 1835 into about 1840, we saw a lot of development to the west of Brisbane, Western Corridor, if you like. Basically farmers moving in, things happening. By 1855, Gatton was gazetted as a town. Then in the 1870s, some of the early churches, 1897, the Gatton College. I mean, it's an Australian institution. The Gatton College was started 1898. Of course, we had the infamous Murphy murders in the Lockyer Valley, unsolved to this day. And then other things happening in the world, kings and queens dying, world wars, sinking of the Titanic. All of this stuff, it tells a story, not just of the world, but, for example, Manteufel's living in Hopewell wouldn't have received news of those world events for literally days before the information came from overseas. Yeah, it's pretty significant. And the good thing about the Manteufel history is it is so well documented that it's a good example of German settlement in Australia.
Yes and no. I did believe in it before I came here, and I've still got my doubts on the spiritual realm. I'm starting to sway towards believing it. I am being slowly convinced of that.
I have believed in the afterlife since I was a young child. Things happened back then that didn't add up, and me being me, I've gone out and researched things that have happened and other bits and pieces like that. Since being in the professional field of paranormal investigation, that has just backed up everything that we've researched, all the hard work that the team have done, and information that's been given to us after investigation, because normally we go in blind. We'll do the investigation, we will record and accumulate the information, then take it back to the people or the owners of the property or the people who wanted the investigation done, and then we overlap the information that they give us. And surprisingly, there's a lot of it will actually match. Names, events, things like that, they will match up. And that leads us to being 99% sure that we are communicating with the spiritual realm.
My name's Robert Wadley. I've been coming here for about 2 years. Initially it was to curate some of the collection, but I spend most of my time playing with old engines and doing a bit of maintenance work around the place. I'm retired now, although I've just opened a bookshop, so I don't know whether that affects my status. I enjoy history and I enjoy finding out about the past. As to whether a place is haunted or not, I'm not so sure. I've walked into very old churches and I can tell you can feel something. In this situation, I don't know. None of our exhibits belong here. And you have to ask yourself, does a ghost move with the building it was in, or particular belongings that are associated with it, or does it belong to a particular place in geography? So I haven't had any experiences here. I haven't been here late at night. I haven't been here on my own, but no one's tapped me on the shoulder. So I'm prepared to say it's an open book, but I'm suspicious that we don't see much out here. If we went somewhere in the country where a house had been standing for 100 years, I might change my mind.
Okay. Okay, this question actually becomes very personal, because when my father died, he was in hospital in Toowoomba, and I was in his shed, and there was a bit of a standing joke between us that I wouldn't be at his funeral because I'd be too busy being in his shed stealing his tools. But about 5 minutes before I received the phone call from the hospital, I stood there and I went, oh my, he's just died. And at that I had this feeling that my father and my deceased uncle were with me, and they were gone. They basically said goodbye and they were gone. So is there something after death? I hope so. Will there be something for me after death? Yes, I'm coming back to haunt the Lockyer Valley. By choice.